Hello everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of the Friendship Rewind, where I look back at every episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. My name is Alex Inman, your host, and today we'll be going through the first character-focused episode, Applebuck Season. And what I mean by character-focused episode is that episodes of Friendship is Magic aren't always about the ensemble going on a grand adventure all the time. Sometimes it's just one character who is learning a friendship problem, and the first pony to have that experience is our favorite orange pony, Applejack. Applebuck Season is written by Amy Keating Rogers. No song this time, but regardless, it is a fun episode. And we begin this episode with Applejack and her brother Big Macintosh looking out into the orchard and apple trees as far as the eye can see, all ready for harvesting.
That there is the biggest bumper crop of apples I ever laid eyes on.
Yep. Too big for you to handle on your own.
And we have our first male voice actor of the show, Peter New, as Big Macintosh. Peter is a really talented guy and really funny. And while Big Macintosh is written to be a pony of few words, Peter makes the best of it along with voicing a few other characters in the show. And Peter also has a number of live-action acting credits. You may have seen him in the movie Agent Cody Banks during the height of Frankie Muniz's popularity. He was in the live-action Scooby-Doo 2 movie as a fan of Daphne. He was also coincidentally in the Scooby-Doo episode of Supernatural, and most recently has been in the movie Always Be My Maybe, and in the second season of the revival of The Twilight Zone. He has also created some original projects of his own, including writing and starring in a multiple award-winning short film titled Woodman, and writing a hilarious audio play called Voyage of the Whifferval, spelled Oeverwal. And you can listen to that show on YouTube and any other podcast platform right after you listen to every episode of the Friendship Rewind. Now, back to the show that we're actually supposed to be talking about, My Little Pony. Big Macintosh is very skeptical of Applejack trying to harvest all the apples by herself.
Are you saying my mouth is making promises my legs can't keep?
Yep. And one pony plus hundreds of apple trees just doesn't add up to...
Don't you use your fancy mathematics to muddy the issue. I'm gonna get every last apple out of those trees this Applebuck season all by myself.
But before she can start bucking the apple trees, a huge stampede of cows comes through and heads right to Ponyville, causing mass panic. Though it seems that this has happened before because some ponies have specific emergency procedures like closing up windows and taking in their welcome mats. The mayor tries to keep everyone calm, but everyone can clearly see cows running right toward the town. And in comes Applejack and her dog Winona, who work to stop the stampede, including this really cool overhead shot where Applejack has got a lasso around one of the cows and makes it turn, causing the entire herd to avoid Ponyville completely. And now with the stampede stopped and the town saved, the decision is made to hold a gigantic ceremony to honor Applejack as the savior of Ponyville. Twilight tries to give a nice speech commemorating Applejack, but is interrupted by Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, and Fluttershy, who each talk about a task that Applejack will help them with. The mayor finally announces Applejack as the guest of honor, but unfortunately she is 0 for 2 because Applejack is not behind the curtain. Instead, Applejack shows up late, looking and sounding incredibly tired from picking apples day after day. She becomes particularly distracted by the warped look the trophy makes her face.
I sure do look funny. Okay.
And after briefly falling asleep on the stage, she finally grabs the trophy and leaves, dragging it all the way across the ground in a very great moment of comedy with there just is no music. It's just her dragging it across the ground, and it is really funny. Back at the orchard, Applejack continues to collect apples from the trees while getting increasingly tired. Twilight comes by and asks Applejack if she wants any help picking the apples, but Applejack is both stubborn and determined, and so she refuses Twilight's help. Sometime later, she meets up with Rainbow Dash, late of course, to help her with her new trick. The idea is using a seesaw catapult to launch Rainbow into the air so she can do a series of increasingly complicated moves that even confuse the camera. So Applejack gets up on the high platform and Rainbow Dash counts her down to launch. But unfortunately, Applejack's tiredness causes her not to be able to focus.
Ready? 1, 2, 3!
And I just love the sound of that. There's no music, it's just a sudden thud. It's really funny. After more failed attempts, Applejack just pushes down on her end of the seesaw thinking that it would do something, but it doesn't. But it also demonstrates that Earth ponies are much heavier than Pegasus ponies. She goes for one more jump, but getting off the seesaw knocks out Rainbow Dash for a second somehow, and then Applejack makes her leap right on target.
Wait! You're welcome!
And despite being launched seemingly miles into the sky, she ends up crashing into Twilight's balcony. So I guess she went around the entire planet? I don't know. Twilight then goes back to the orchard where Applejack has just recently hit her head on a branch, which causes her hearing to go bad. And her head hitting the branch is actually a remnant of what the original idea was for how Applejack was going to become more disoriented as her work went. But Standards and Practices frowns upon brain damage in kids' shows, so it was then changed to that she just gets increasingly tired. And then something weird happens during the exchange between Twilight and Applejack. Someone who is not Tara Strong speaks one line as Twilight. Listen to this.
No, can we talk? 20 stocks? Bean or celery? No, I need to talk to you. You need to walk to the zoo? Well, who's stopping you? I need to talk to you.
I've been trying to find out who this is, but haven't been able to yet, so if you'd like to tweet at me or leave a comment saying if you figured out who it is, I'd love to know. And so, after hitting the branch once again, Applejack goes off to help Pinkie Pie make a batch of muffins. But because of her increasingly delirious nature, she can't understand what Pinkie Pie is saying. So, instead of chocolate chips, she gets potato chips. Instead of baking soda, she just hears soda and puts in soda. Instead of a cup of flour, she hears a cup of sour, which she interprets to mean lemon juice. And finally, instead of wheat germ, which is something that exists in baking, she thinks it means earthworms. Pinkie Pie apparently trusts Applejack implicitly and does not do a taste test at all, and serves up the muffins to Ponyville residents. And then we immediately cut to a hospital unit, which is full of a bunch of sick ponies, and that is just a really funny smash cut.
Not baked goods, baked bads.
Twilight goes back to the orchard a third time and has the same conversation with Applejack about asking if she needs help, and Applejack steadfastly refusing, before going off to help Fluttershy.
Ugh, that pony is stubborn as a mule. No offense.
None taken.
And this is the first of 2 appearances for the mule, which is voiced by one of the show's early directors, James Woody Wooten. The directors of Friendship is Magic have some voice acting chops and will occasionally voice characters themselves, even characters who are central to an episode's story. So Applejack gets to Fluttershy and needs to help her with the bunny census, which is counting all the newborn bunnies. On a related note, if you live in the United States, I hope you or your household filled out their census because it is very important. Anyway, Applejack is still very, very tired from working constantly, and if you've not gotten enough sleep before, you know that you can become pretty ornery, which is what Applejack gets, and so she and Winona treat the bunnies like cattle and round them up and scare them in the process. The bunnies get so freaked out that they actually cause a bunny stampede, which in our world would look super adorable and that video would get millions and millions of views, but in the pony world, it is deadly serious. The stampede actually makes it into Ponyville, but emergency procedures are in place, windows are closed, welcome mats are brought inside. Unfortunately, it is not enough for one fleeing pony who actually faints from the shock, and the bunnies just run right around her and don't trample her because you can't trample someone in a kid show. Twilight shows up a bit later and sees 3 ponies fainted on the ground, and I love just how serious the music is in this moment. But there's no visible damages to anything, so Twilight says,
I don't get it. Our gardens destroyed! Every last flower devoured! By them! Oh my! Oh, please stop, little bunnies.
Twilight just sort of leaves Fluttershy to take care of all the bunnies eating all the flowers and other plants in the town and goes to confront Applejack for one last time.
All right, Applejack. Your apple bucking hasn't just caused you problems, it's overpropelled Pegasus, practically poisoned plenty of ponies, and terrorized bushels of brand new bouncing baby bunnies. I don't care what you say, you need help.
And after being shown that there are still many, many, many apple trees left to harvest, Applejack yields, and she finally admits that she needs help. And I just want to point out that during the montage of everyone helping harvest trees while Twilight writes her letter to the princess, Twilight uses her magic to take all the apples off of like 20 trees. And it both feels like cheating and like Twilight should just do all the trees herself, and why is everyone else helping if she just has magic and can levitate everything? Anyway, all the apples are harvested, Applejack learns about humility and asking for help, and that is how the episode ends. When I did my big 4-day binge for watching the show for the first time back in June 2011, it was around this point when I realized that this is a show worth watching and it has engaging characters, an engaging world, and I was looking forward to following it wherever it went, which would apparently be for another 8 years. And looking back on this episode specifically, I realized that Applejack doesn't actually have that many character-focused episodes for herself in the show. She's meant to be a pretty straightforward pony, and there isn't really much conflict in that, I guess. So that's what I thought about the episode, but of course I'd love to hear what you think about it. You can tweet at me at InmanAlex, INMANALEX. You can leave a comment if you're listening on a platform that has comments. And be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to the Friendship Rewind, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Overcast, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. Next week, we get into what might be the most important episode of the entire show, and it is only the 5th episode in, so be sure to come back for that. Thank you again so much for listening, and I will see you next week for a brand new episode of the Friendship Rewind. And don't forget to vote. when I watch